Why are the most incompetent clinicians the most confident? Is that really true? Well, according to Dunning Kruger, it is true. And this is basically how humans work when they don't understand concepts at a deeper level. They quite often understand the big picture or the simple components, and this gives them a disproportionate amount of confidence to proceed into the unknown before reality bites. And this is the journey that many clinicians and injectors go on, from just learning the basics all the way through to becoming a master. It's a bumpy ride. The stage just after you're trained, you're often most confident with some of the basics. So you think, this is easy. If I put the needle there, I'll get a result. The reality that actually happens after that stage is you start to hit the complexity that is actually involved with managing a whole patient journey, or trying to get clients, or treating a complication. It's actually much, much more complex than the 3-step plan or the 10-step plan that you might get taught, because patients never present in the simple way that they are often presented in training. You have to decipher a complex reality out of your simple 4-step plan, which basically represents the tip of an iceberg of knowledge that we have to learn. This is often quite a crushing moment to realize that although you've got the basics, there's actually a long road ahead where you have to work your way back up to somewhere close to the confidence that you had just after you thought it was all quite easy. And this happens over a period of months and years, and you never quite get back to that 10 out of 10 confidence, because the reality is that reality is much more complex and dangerous than the 4-step plan that you might have learned. And you always have to be putting that energy back in so that you're practicing safely and thinking a lot more than you might have thought you needed to, based on the simple version that you were taught on day one. Essentially, what learning is a low resolution model of reality. It's a dot-to-dot drawing of a complex, infinitely complex universe. And what happens when you expose yourself to the real environment that you're practicing is that you realize how complex things really are. Your dot-to-dot drawing does not represent reality, and you basically hit reality with a painful bump, and then the opposite happens. You go from extremely confident to extremely unconfident, as long as you are absorbing what reality is telling you. And at this point, you might give up completely, or you may start to gradually work your way back up that confidence hill by using the fear that you've learned through hitting rock bottom as an energy almost. I often say this, anxiety is an energy. If you use it, you start to use that to rebuild your model of the universe in a way that is more practical, that you're actually using the potential threats to guide you, not pretending that there are no threats. But this is mentally much, much harder, because you're basically building a vastly more complex model of how to survive in your practice that is not based on the 7 steps that you learned on your first course, but on the thousands of steps it actually takes to manage a patient through the whole journey. And this is called the Dunning Kruger Effect. You start out relatively incompetent and unconfident. You rapidly become really confident. Then you drop off quickly as you expose yourself to the reality of what you're doing. And if you've got something about you, you slowly work your way back up. But here's the interesting thing. You never reach the same level of confidence as you do when you have the simple model in your head that you think is fail-safe. You only ever get slightly beneath that. And I really feel that in my practice. I remember very clearly a time when I thought this is really basic, easy stuff that I'm going to get bored with, to suddenly realizing it's a lot more complex and I will never get bored of it, but never quite reaching that same stage of chilled injecting that I might have had 6 months into it, because I realized the complexity that's involved. So I'm thinking a lot more, doing a lot more in my mind when I'm injecting, even though the movements are simpler than when I first started. But this is a long journey that we all need to go on. And some people get stuck right at the beginning. And some people never understand the complexity. It's only when something bad happens do they quit and leave the industry. And unfortunately, that's the situation we're in. If you want to find out more about handling complications, becoming a confident injector who's also extremely safe, make sure you join my free webinar by clicking on the link now.